Hello all, I'm Vishal Salvi. I head the cybersecurity business at Cognizant. Welcome to the Cognizant Cyber Talks. So today we have a special guest. We have DB, Daniel Bernard, who is the Chief Business Officer of CrowdStrike. And with so many things happening in the cybersecurity world, there are very interesting questions that I have for DB, and hopefully we'll have, a good conversation.
Totally. Vishal, it's great to be here.
Welcome to India.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us here today.
Pleasure.
So, we've seen around 6 to 7 months of, mythos coming in and, how the world is responding. There is obviously anxiety, concerns. At the same time, we are having a significant growth in the observability when it comes to cybersecurity. So the first question really is about how do you see now that it is settling down? Where are we today? And how do you see it going from here?
I think let's start maybe even in the last 2 years of this new era and time of AI. First, it was people using website-driven AI tools like ChatGPT, and that was what was really popular. Almost treating it like Google, like asking a question. I think in those times, it was unclear how cyber would be impacted. But the fact that we could get information and more thorough, consistent information faster was the positive then. Then we moved to the next phase where you have things like Claude Code, Codex, and I think that's where it started to become clear that AI isn't just an information source, it's actually an outcome driver. And that's where the transformation in cyber started to come, where once agents became something that became real for any kind of user, a CISO, for example, where a CISO could imagine that he or she would have a team, not just a team of human analysts, but a team of agents running the cyber program. That's where cyber and AI, I think, really started to get interesting. And then it kicked to a whole nother level of hysteria, excitement, interest, intrigue, with Mythos, with Project Glasswing, CrowdStrike being a part of that from the start, with OpenAI's TAC, their new models that are coming out, where everyone's realized that these models are actually really good at finding vulnerabilities. And herein is where we're entering the third wave, if you will, of AI relevance in cyber. We've long said the more AI you want to adopt, the more cybersecurity you need. That's the reality of this transformation. It's very different from the transformation from on-prem to cloud. And on-prem to cloud, everybody was just racing towards the cloud. Security chased it later. This time around, in order to adopt AI, you need cybersecurity. So right now, as everybody evaluates these new models, one of the first things they're doing is saying, is my organization, is my enterprise safe? Am I ready for these new models? And that's where a lot of the work we're going to be doing together, and we already are, comes into play. But right now, I think boardrooms are hearing the word cybersecurity more than they've ever heard them before. Cyber is no longer a backroom discussion, it's a boardroom discussion, and AI is helping drive that.
No, absolutely. I think the amount of visibility that this topic has created is unprecedented. I think there are a lot more calls happening with the board members and interest in terms of what does it really mean and what do we really do, right? And I think this partnership with QuiltWorks, Cognizant and CrowdStrike coming together really sets the tone in terms of what we need to do. But when you look at the challenge, in the security world, we never had the challenge of identifying vulnerabilities. It's always about the speed and agility that we have in terms of remediation. So in a way, with this humongous amount of visibility, the problem has got that much more compounded as compared to actually getting it solved. And with the brittle application infrastructure, which requires humongous amount of testing, how do you see the approach changing? If we have to now respond at machine speed because we are having a machine speed observability.
Well, first, we're seeing more than we've ever seen before in terms of where the vulnerabilities are. So imagine like if your enterprise is like a wall, before you only could really see certain cracks. But now we have this new magic vision that lets us see little hairline cracks and all these other things that we need to fix. Before, we used to think of patching on a Tuesday once a month. called Patch Tuesday. Now, Patch Tuesday is over because it's like patch every day. So I think there's two plays here, and there's two main areas to answer your question. The first is, how do you have continuous visibility over vulnerabilities? So where are they actually proliferating? Where are they coming from? And then what do you have? And then two is, how do you patch them, not just in a once a month type of cadence, but in an always on type of cadence? And I think it's also fair to say not every vulnerability is patchable. And frankly, not every vulnerability needs to be patched. But then what are the compensating controls so that you understand why you're not patching something, what the cost and the risk is of not patching it, and what are your fail-safe security measures so that you're safe and or you have the right kind of cyber against it, so that if an adversary tries to exploit that vulnerability, you have the necessary security around those different vulnerabilities. We're not going to solve all this stuff ourselves. As at a product level, as a company, CrowdStrike, the Falcon platform, we give you visibility over the vulnerabilities, and we have the right tooling to remediate and patch those. Our exposure management solution gives you the visibility. Our Falcon for IT technology gives you the ability to then remediate and patch. However, every enterprise needs advisory services around operationalizing this new world. And that's really where Cognizant comes into play. We're going to give you the tooling, we're the picks and the shovels, if you will. But then who's going to do all the work, and how's the work going to happen? That's where we need your help and the help of your agents to make reality of making cybersecurity better for this AI era become something that's real, not just a dream for the customer.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think when you look at it in terms of this issue of remediation itself, there is also the infused AI in terms of how we're going to adopt AI to fight against AI, right? And over there, obviously, there is an expectation of productivity and how AI can help cybersecurity work better. How do you feel cyber world is going to be very different as compared to how, for example, AI is going to be used for, say, coding or infrastructure transformation, right?
I think first let's talk about how it's going to be similar and then how it's going to be really different.
Okay.
Similar is the productivity of every human in cyber is going to 10x, 50x, some multiple of what it is today. But I think at the same time, the amount of work is also going to grow commensurate to the amount of productivity shift. So in a weird way, it's sort of like a Pareto efficiency because the amount of attack surfaces are multiplying. The amount of visibility and data that we're able to harvest and see is multiplying. The adversary is also multiplying. So what I just mentioned is a lot of multiplication. And when you put a lot of multiplication together, numbers get really, really big, really, really fast. So what do you do about it? The only way to deal with it is with AI. You need a platform, not point products. You need a platform. And today the platform isn't just the technology, it's also how it's delivered in the team. And that's where you need the right kind of partner. You need Cognizant to come in and operate this thing and make sure you're delivering outcomes. We're not selling product anymore. You're not selling product. We're selling outcome, especially when it's in this world of speed, scale, risk. You can't live by selling SKUs. It's not a SKU problem. It's an outcome problem. And it takes a mix of the right technology and the right team to deliver the right process to solve this problem. And I think it's really exciting because it's a real problem. And where companies like ours win is when we're solving real problems for customers and when the customer says, wow, before my status quo was here and after I was able to see it go to here. We have the opportunity to deliver that outcome for all of the customers we serve. And that's where this partnership is going and why it's so exciting.
No, absolutely. And I think also, with so many ways in which we can measure the outcomes, I think security is well poised, to really measure it, have proper KPIs, KRIs attached to that, and also then deliver those. I think we have a great opportunity there.
Totally. We're seeing our business expand and grow in this time because there's more risk. Boards are telling their CEOs are telling their leadership team, I want to adopt more AI. And like I said before, the more AI you adopt, the more cybersecurity you need. I think there's a lot of other areas of technology where AI is disruptive, where AI results in less spend. Not so in cybersecurity. AI results in more risk, which results in more technology investment and more strategy investment and more operational investment to getting it right. as this thing continues to accelerate and proliferate.
No, absolutely. And I think within that, when you look at in terms of how the agentic is getting adopted in cyber, how much time uh, you think it will take for us to really get into a fully autonomous cybersecurity operation?
It's a really good question. I was with a group of CISOs a couple weeks ago for a dinner, and I asked them, how many of you have created an agent for your SOC? And about half the room raised their hand. Okay. So that's interesting. Then I asked, how many of you actually trust that agent to deliver whatever the task and the outcome is at the expense of perhaps not having a person staffed on that? And only one or so raised their hand. So I think like we're still in this early, and that was a room of about 40 CISOs. So we're still in this really early experimentation stage when it comes to trusting agents to run security programs. I don't think the world's there yet. I think it's going to be a 1 to 3 year shift where every CISO on planet Earth is going to be able to say, hey, I trust AI to do this, this, and this. And I'd like it aspirationally to be able to do that, that, and that. I don't think that comes at the expense or at the replacement of people. I think it helps augment and provide a lot of, if you want to say, kind of job up-leveling that you can do with the team that you have.
Yeah.
What it means for junior people starting in cybersecurity, I mean, there's been a shortage for a long time. I think there's still plenty of jobs, but agents are definitely going to be competing with people for a lot of the level 1 jobs. Yeah. That's different. That's new.
Yeah, I think one of the things that in Cognizant we are talking about is future of work. As we position ourselves as AI builder, we have to think about the future of work, and I think it's a fascinating thing to look at in terms of how the cyber roles itself are transforming. So, for example, are we pivoting to more managing the agents part, or the human in the loop part, or the real cognitive stuff which we almost forgot to do, where we were just putting our blinkers on and doing the commands. So I think there's lot of opportunity out there, but I think this pivot is going to be interesting. Any take on that in terms of how do you see these roles evolving?
I think the pivot is also, before, functionally, we thought of cyber as just a vertical. Like, oh, we have cyber as an offering for an organization like yours. I think what's interesting for those listening in is that where we're going is that every single person in Cognizant that works here is in the cyber business. Just like every business became digital, every offering that you offer, every capability has to have cyber as a part of it. So I think, in a way, the opportunity space that we're living in together is expanding quite rapidly because the customer is thinking about cyber and protecting not just digital assets, but really agentic workflows in new ways, because the risks of getting it wrong are just too big. You don't want a rogue agent running around, giving password access, giving data, sharing data, thinks it's doing the right thing, or maybe it's nefarious and it's doing the wrong thing. Where's the kill switch? Where's the human in the loop? How do you make sure that that agent is trustworthy? Everybody wants the productivity, but then what about the risk? And we shouldn't not use agents. We should use agents. We should embrace all these new innovations because it means better outcomes faster, capabilities, and ultimately new innovation that we're all going to benefit from. But you can't do it without the cybersecurity, and that's the opportunity space for us.
No, absolutely, and I think we talked in a short span of time. We talked about so many range of topics, but one of the things which is easily we can infer from this is that it's extremely exciting times. For so many different technology changes happening at the same time, creating opportunities as well as risk. It's basically the winners are the ones who are going to seize those opportunities and see how we can add value in the whole system. Thank you so much, DB, for coming and sharing your views here. It was a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Vishal, and thanks to the whole Cognizant team. Go sell some CrowdStrike, go help customers, and we're going to win together.
Absolutely. So that was DB, and thank you so much for joining us today at Cognizant Cyber Talk. Thank you.